Welcome back, Couch Critics. Well, welcome back to Sam. You've seen me in the past couple of vlogs that I've done, but I'm Brad. This is Sogg. Welcome back to a bit of a chat. We're going to try and do a bit of a weekly chat from here on till the end of the season. So watch out for these videos. We'll try and get them up on Thursdays before the round of action. Yeah, we're just going to talk about some of the games from the weekend, look ahead to some of the weekend matches, and talk about some hot topic. Well, maybe not hot topics, some interesting topics that have come up across the week. Melbourne City premiers. That's not a hot topic. No one even cares. Anyway, let's get into it. Actually, so Samuel, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. A bit busy at the moment, which is, hence we've not been super active lately. But yeah, busy, but enjoying the football. Just kind of quietly, not tweeting too much. Just trying to enjoy it.
Get amongst the soccer Twitter. Get across the most toxic community in Australian sport. Anyway, let's dive into it. First game on the Friday night was Newcastle beating Macarthur 2-1. Aiden, last name, can't think of it. Anyway, scored
O'Neill.
Oh, wait, Aiden O'Neill. No, it's not O'Neill. That's the Melbourne City guy.
Brandon O'Neill.
Brandon O'Neill. That's why. Okay, I see why I got confused there. Brandon O'Neill scoring the winner, I think in like the 4th or 5th minute of stoppage time. And Macarthur just cannot stop conceding in stoppage time there. But it keeps Newcastle within the race, in the mix of making the finals.
Like epic finish to a match. Macarthur equalising in the 92nd minute. You think that's it. Like they've snatched something there. And then Brendan O'Neill with just a beautiful hit. Had so much time. He's like 30 yards out and just peach of a left footer. Love it.
Yeah. It was pretty good for him personally. I think he spoke after the game about what he's been through the past year or so with the passing of his father. So it's a good moment for him. Yeah. Macarthur, I think they're technically still in the race for the finals, but boy, they've thrown away. Like they had a lead in stoppage time against the Wanderers. They were going to get a point here against Newcastle. They've really thrown away their chances of keeping within touch of the finals in the past couple of weeks.
It's almost like they've got the mentality of a team that just kicks around at the pub. Like
maybe Dwight York was right
to be able to stick with it, and a big loss for them was Davila. Like losing him, I think that was their season over. And yeah, mathematically they can make it, but that takes pretty much everybody else losing ahead of them. So I don't think it's going to happen. Or we've lost you, Brad.
Put a headset off. On to the next game. Central Coast 1-1 against Melbourne City. I think it was Geordie Boss scoring a fantastic goal for City. In the end, it was, well, with a further result we'll get to, that was enough for City to secure a third straight premiership. We'll talk about that a bit later. Did you see much of this game, Samuel? It was a really good crowd, over 10,000 there for this game in Gosford.
Yeah, the whole game seemed to be back and forth. There was not a whole lot of solid possession. Both teams would kind of turn the ball over and then straight on the attack down the other end. Like it was fantastic, entertaining game to watch, and particularly the ending after Boss scored his goal. You would think City, the team that they are and the dominance they kind of had in the league, they would go on, but Central Coast came right back at them and had quite a few chances. Yeah, it was a fantastic match. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yep. Very good. And well, this was a game I was at. Wanderers beating Melbourne victory 2-1. It was enough to confirm the Wanderers' long-awaited return to the finals. Did you watch this one at all, Samuel?
I watched little bits and pieces of this one. I can't say I watched all of it, but I did see the fantastic through ball from Borello to Leone to score the winner. Pretty late on, again, like Wanderers have shown a good consistency of scoring late goals this season, and this is another one. Leone on the bench to start, which I thought was an interesting decision, but comes on, makes an impact. Like, yeah, he's looked great, and that's maybe just a side point, but Leone is the first striker Wanderers have signed in some time, foreign striker, who actually seems to know what he's doing on a football pitch.
Yeah, the last time I had a striker like this would have been Oriol Riera, and I think he copped a lot of slack back in the day, but I thought, he's seemed to score quite a lot of goals. But for me, I think he's the most exciting player that's put on a Wanderers shirt since Shinji Ono all those years ago. You just
Yeah.
you just don't know what he's going to do. He's so exciting on the ball. Um, yeah, well, I think we're pretty lucky to take the lead at half time. Brennan Borrello scoring in stoppage time of the first half, and then Velupile scored the equaliser. A bit sloppy against the runner play in the second half. Then Roderick Miranda got sent off. Just like and these arguments, it's like you jump in with your studs, you make contact to the leg. It's a send off, and I don't know why people argue and they sit on the field and they mope and they cry about, it's not a red card. It's like it's been a red card all year. We want consistency from the refs, and we're getting consistency for that. And it probably changed the game, but that's not saying that the Wanderers got an unfair advantage. And like you said, Leone, great finish for him.
Yeah, Wanderers still had to fight for that victory against the 10 men.
Yeah, for sure. Next game, Adelaide and Western United. United.
No. That's the last game of the round.
Was it? Oh, okay.
That's the last game. We got to
yeah,
go.
sorry.
Brisbane.
Yeah, my bad. It's Wellington and Brisbane. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2-2 at Eden Park and in Auckland, which could be the home of a future A-League men's team in a couple of years. But yeah, Wellington. I didn't watch this game. I was still out and about my local football game. But did you watch this one at all?
I only saw little snippets of this one. I definitely saw the 60 seconds in which ball hit the post like 3 times, was it? Like something outrageous.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. 2 pens in the game. O'Shea scored in quite a few games back to back now. I think he's gone on a big run, which is just unreal. I'm not sure how many of them have been penalties, but he's racking up some goals for
6 games
a team that's still not in the top 6.
And a team that doesn't score a lot of goals as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Wellington aren't officially in the finals, but I think they're just going to get there in the end. And Brisbane, they really needed that win to have any hope. But it's a real sign of how competitive the bottom 6 are. And now moving on to this game, I might let you talk about this one because you were there. Sydney FC beating Perth Glory 4-1 quite convincingly. It's probably haven't seen so many performances like that this year.
Yeah, look, if you believe Steve Corica's spin, Sydney FC should be second because we've been that good all season. I don't know if that's quite true. Perth's defence was pretty rubbish on the weekend. Like Sydney were walking through. Now, Sydney did look better than they have in previous weeks, but still conceding a goal. Perth just weren't great, and it was good to see Alfie back, and he looked finally like he was getting the service he's kind of been wanting for the last 2 seasons. I didn't see Sydney cross the ball in aimlessly this game, which is a first, like for the season. Considering we don't have a proper 9, that was nice to see. But yeah, Sydney looked okay, but Perth were pretty rubbish, and it really helps Sydney out. Keeps them right in the 6. And right on the back of Wellington now.
Yep. Cool. And well, I jumped the gun a bit before with the last game of the round. Western United getting a good away win against Adelaide United. Did you notice it was a good little turnout for Western United? Probably 30 fans there. Probably did help that the gather round was on in the AFL, so maybe a few made the trip, but who cares? It worked out well for the game. Another great crowd at Adelaide, but not a good performance. 2 games in a row they've looked a bit poor. Adelaide at home, they had the draw against Sydney FC last week, and now I went and lost to Western United. It keeps Western in the finals hunt, the reigning champions, but Adelaide's just looking a bit off at the moment, at the wrong time too.
Yeah, look, they were still having plenty of chances. They were still attacking lots. It's probably not the time of the season, though, that you want those half chances to not go in. I think a lot of this season, Adelaide have been just scoring chances that are kind of 50-50. So the last couple of games, that hasn't happened for them. And yeah, maybe that's a worry for them. But with the quality they've got up front, I wouldn't be too worried about Adelaide.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was the wrap on round 24. I did send you a message with some brief topics I might want to have a chat about. First off, what I did saw before we started filming this was the race for the Alex Tobin medal, the the players' player, the Brownlow medal, the Dally M of the A-League. And at the moment, it's Matthew Leckie on top with 29, only 1 point ahead against above Brandon Borello. And then Brandon Borello is 2 points ahead of Joe Lolly. So that's 29, 28, and 26 those three guys are on. So interesting last 2 weeks. And Melbourne City will play the Wanderers in the final round of the season. So it's pretty open.
Well, Leckie's not going to
Pardon?
Leckie's not going to get any more points because he's out injured.
Yeah, of course.
And so really, it's Brandon Borello's to lose, unless Joe Lolly, which I'm actually a bit surprised that Lolly's there, and maybe it talks to the lack of quality in the rest of the Sydney squad that he consistently has picked up points.
Yeah.
I don't think he's been on the same level as Brandon Borello, and definitely not as good as Craig Goodwin, who's below him. And we talked about maybe that's because the Adelaide squad is actually so good, and each week they have a range of good performers that actually takes points away from somebody, whereas a Joe Lolly maybe is getting points where no one else is really standing out, and so he's scraping a couple of points here and there, which bumps him up. But Brandon Borello has been fantastic, and with Leckie, still out injured, with 2 rounds to go, he very well, the form he's in, could take that out.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't begrudge him of it, to be honest. He's been electric. Like, another goal and assist on the weekend just shows just how quality he is. Getting a Socceroos call up, he's been fantastic.
I think I saw a clip on I think it was Daniel Georgeski talking about just some people in the A-League are just happy to just go from club to club and just keep getting their paycheck, just playing the same football. I look at someone like Brendan Borello. He came back to Australia with a real point. He came back from ACL. He wasn't in the Socceroos squad anymore, and he's really put in a shift. He's got the call up back to the Socceroos. I imagine, unfortunately, he's probably deserved a good contract overseas next year if he wants it. He's one of those players that have really turned up. He could have just came here, got his pay, and just played up. But he just runs all day. I just don't know how he does it. And he doesn't look that gassed too when he runs that much. But yeah, I think personally for myself, I think no bias, but I think Brandon Borello's been the player of the season for me. He's been fantastic. But anyway, Craig Goodwin's fourth. I think we mentioned, and Alex Tobin. Jay O'Shea's in fifth. And then you got 3 guys tied in sixth: Reno Pescopo, Brian Celtic, who I think has been one of the best centre-backs in the comp, even though he's been sent off like 50 times. And also Max Burgess is tied for sixth. And you got Marco Tullio and Oscar Zawada tied on ninth. So that rounds out your top 10. But let's jump on to... Did you hear the news? I don't know if you did. I don't think anyone cares anyway. Melbourne City premiers for a 3rd year in a row.
Yeah, huge. It really shouldn't be crickets. It's quite an achievement. The first team to go 3 premierships back to back. Yeah, like that's huge. And we didn't mention that, as well as clinching the A-League men's title this weekend, they also clinched the club championship.
Now that's a proper cricket trophy. That's a very who cares about that trophy? But yes, that is that's a good sign for the club that they're top. Well, I mean, they perform really well in both comps.
Yeah, that's right. Like, everything seems to be going in the right way, and we talk about this. Love to see them with more fans, the kind of football they're playing. But it does kind of pose the question, I think, like 3 consecutive seasons premiers, but would you, Bradley, hold them in the same regard as Ange's Brisbane and Arnie's Sydney FC, who both went 2 seasons back to back and who looked just dominant when they were in their forms?
Oh, I think those teams have probably got to win the grand final this year for me to consider that. I think we'll always probably think that Ange team is probably one of the best A-League teams of all time, and same with that the Sydney FC team as well. For some reason, I'm wrong when I say this, but I don't think they are, because they've just flown under the radar. No one cares. It's probably because no one really cares about Melbourne City. But I think we have to. It's the first time someone's won 3 premierships in a row. No one's ever done this before. And at times this season, they've been comfortable. They were comfortable last year.
And the year
Mm.
before, they had a slow run into the finals, but they wrapped up the premiership well in advance. They've done it with ease, and I think we should really be talking about them being one of the best teams in A-League history. They've got some quality players. You can say, yeah, they've brought them in, but over the years, they've developed some really good players. You've got Marco Attilio, Nathaniel Atkinson before a couple of years ago. They've picked up some really good players. They've developed them, like Daniel Alzani. That was before, obviously, this run they've gone on. But, we can criticise, and I think it's a right thing to criticise their involvement with the City Football Group and the kind of sports washing that comes from that. But they have invested a lot into junior development in Australian football, and I don't think any other club can boast the kind of players they've developed in the past 3 years. So, yeah, for me, I think we need to talk about them as arguably one of the best teams in the A-League era.
Yeah, and I think it is kind of a mark of their domination this season. We were just talking about Matthew Leckie, who's still at the top of the points for, and yet he's been out injured for quite a while now. And so the early domination, and without one of their best players, and Marco Tilio's just stepped up and performed probably not as good as Matt Leckie was at the start of the season, but he's adding goals, he's adding assists, like he's a valuable part of their team. And like they just slot those people in. You got Geordie Boss, who really only broke out last season, and now he's one of the best players in the league and dominating the left-hand side of the field and just casually swapping over to the right and popping in a goal. Like
you got Aidan O'Neill as well.
Yeah, Valon Berisha just, popped over to Australia this season and he's just doing bits. Florent Berenguer is one of those players who probably doesn't get the attention he deserves. Is probably just as quality as somebody like a Ninkovic was for Sydney FC, or a Broish was for that Brisbane side. But he doesn't get the plaudits. He kind of flies under the radar a lot. So it is this kind of weird thing about City that, we don't quite rate them like we should, maybe. No, if you've got a different opinion and you're listening along, let us know, why isn't this City side considered as great as they should be? Or, maybe tell us why you think they are. Yeah, it is just quite interesting.
Yeah, well, so there it is, third premiership in a row. They've made the past 3 grand finals? A loss against Sydney FC, a win against Sydney FC, and a loss against Western. So yeah, I think for me, if you really want to talk about being the best in the A-League era, I think they've got to win the grand final. I think people reckon the premiership's more important, and I would argue, well, not in this country, and we can see from the reaction of them winning it that no one really cared. And it will be like, whether you like it or not, the grand final is a big thing that you have to win to prove your point in Australian sport. And I think for them, Melbourne City, I think they need to win that because they're pretty ordinary in last year's finals. They scraped in the grand final. They were bang average. I know they're missing quite a few of the Australian squad, but they were bang average in the grand final. So hopefully for their sake, they can pull it together for the grand final. And hopefully for both of our sakes, they don't. Anyway.
Yeah. And I think, there's a potential conversation we could be having, and maybe we'll save it for another day, but in a salary cap league where this team's making, if they go on all the way this season, that's 4 grand finals in a row, 3 premierships in a row. Does the salary cap work?
Well, I think it does.
Or are they reaping the benefits of investing money in ways the salary cap doesn't, affect, like their youth development and coaching staff and just kind of facilities that make them an elite club that, they're not a pub team like MacArthur. They're not shonkily, numbers falling off the back, Brisbane Roar. They're not a club owned by 3 different A-League clubs like the Jets. Those are clubs who are never going to win the league in the next couple of years because they're just run like an absolute basket case. Whereas Melbourne City is not run like a basket case. They're run really well, really professionally. But maybe the salary cap doesn't work either,
Well, I think it's up to those other clubs because Melbourne City know, their owners know that they can't splash the cash like they do with Man City. Like they do with New York City, they have to be mindful. They can't splash, and they recruit smartly. Like Valen Barisha, Florin Berengar. We don't know who these guys. They weren't household names before they came to the A-League, and they performed really well. They've invested into juniors. What did Brisbane and Sydney FC do when they had their success? Did they plant the same seeds? Sydney FC have got a crapload of good talent. Yet, what are they doing? They're not on the field as often.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with Stevie Corica. But like, yeah, I think the salary cap, well, does work in a way, because like Sydney FC dominated. Look at them now. Brisbane 10 years ago dominated. Look at them now. Comes in ebbs and waves, but I think Melbourne City are making the most of it. They're smart with everything they do, and it's up to the other clubs to actually pull their finger out and invest in their juniors, buy smart overseas, because they know they can't buy Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi. They can't get the big household names, but they can go overseas and think, here's a really good player that'll fit our system. Like look at the Wanderers, Marcelo. He actually had a pretty decent career over in Europe, but not many people in Australia would have known him. The same with Milos Ninkovic, actually a really good player over in Europe, but he still wasn't that household name. And Sydney FC bought smart all those years ago. So hats off to Melbourne City. They're working the system, and it's up to the other clubs to challenge it or lift their game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, let's move on to another topic that came out today. We are recording on a Wednesday, so that's when we say today's Wednesday. Brisbane Roar, they're moving back to Lang Park, or for sponsorship names, Suncorp Stadium. So, and their women's are going to play at Ballymore Stadium, and there might be talk about the Roar taking a few games to Ballymore as well. Don't know if you saw this news. Whether you have any thoughts on this news, Samuel?
I did see this news, and I think my favorite reaction was somebody posted a meme that said, "Breaking news: Brisbane announced that they're going to play in Brisbane." Cool. They're kind of talking about going back to their spiritual home. I don't buy that. It's a soulless stadium, but yeah.
Queensland's a bit of a soulless state, and Brisbane's a soulless city. So. Anyway.
We're doing really well to include all our listeners from all over Australia and not just be New South Wales centric.
Bro, I'm a New South Welshman growing up following rugby league. Do you want me to be sympathetic to Queenslanders? No. Anyway.
Yeah, look, I think the women's team has gotten the better deal out of this. They get to play at the redeveloped Ballymore, which is probably more appropriately sized. I don't know how many that's
supposed to... But I still think it's a couple of years off the redevelopment, because the redevelopment for the Olympics still 9 years away. So
yeah, sure.
I don't know if it's happening overnight, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be a smart stadium once it's done.
Even before the redevelopment, like if it's just one stand, that's probably appropriate for a Brisbane Roar women's team.
And one of the stands, I think, has been condemned, so they can't use one of it until obviously it's redeveloped.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
That's pretty A-League quality then. Excellent. You'll have to see it. Yeah, look, I think as for Brisbane playing back in Suncorp, their crowds have been not horrendous at Redcliffe.
They're pretty average.
And they probably have lots of fans up there in Redcliffe.
They're pretty crap.
But yeah, I think their attendances will be better at Suncorp. They should be hitting towards 10,000. A club like Brisbane Roar, a city like Brisbane, they should be getting behind that team. It just looks terrible in a massive Suncorp stadium. So, it's good. It's better than Redcliffe.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of problems with the club, particularly their owners, not investing in the club. And those couple of years away in Redcliffe. So I don't know the geography of Queensland that well, but from my understanding, it's quite a hike from the CBD of Brisbane, where they used to be based. Pardon?
It's like a 45-minute drive.
Yeah, and some people would argue that it's not a part of Brisbane. I'm not going to have that argument. I think Suncorp is a good location, easy to get to. Problem is, it is 50,000 and does look pretty horrendous, even when there's 10,000 people in it. But I think it'll be better for them to play at Suncorp because it's more centralised. A lot of people spoke online about how they just never went to Redcliffe because it was so far out. I'd imagine it'd be something like, I can't really compare it to Sydney because the geographic's very different, but like 45 minutes from the CBD of Sydney is what? Penrith.
Well, like driving down to Wollongong.
Yeah, and Wollongong's not a part of Sydney, so
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very different. I think it'll be better for them crowd wise. I think Ballymore, my understanding is the public transport isn't particularly great, and a lot of the locals have a sook every time there's an event on because they don't like the noise. Yet they bought a house next to a major sporting facility, but it is a rugby facility, so maybe that tells you the demographic of the people. Very like, oh, why are you making noise? Shut up! I can't hear why I eat my caviar sandwich. Anyway, yeah, no, I don't care if I'm offending anyone. Yeah. So yeah, I like the idea when they used to play at Lang Park and they played like one game a season at Dolphin Stadium. I thought that was really cool. I was kind of like going to somewhere else in Brisbane. I think it worked well when it was just a one-off game, but when it became the whole season, I just don't think it worked.
Yep.
So I think it'll be good that they're there, but still, I think what Queensland need is a purpose-built football stadium,
They'll
redevelop
never
a
get
park
one.
or something like that.
They'll never get one. Like,
Yeah,
I
and
think
I think
that's been,
it's pretty disgraceful what the Queensland government's done, where they're going to invest in so much all these new facilities for the Olympics. They're going to redevelop rebuild the Gabba for like $4 billion. They're going to redevelop Ballymore for rugby, yet not a cent is towards any purpose-built football stadium.
well, and just in that, like nothing they're redeveloping is an Olympic sport. Like they're up doing the Gabba because it'll be the Olympic stadium. Sure, it'll have other
Yeah,
stuff
but it'll
played in
never
it.
host
Or
athletics or anything like that ever again. It'll just host
no,
cricket and
no, that's it.
AFL.
Yeah, it's pretty horrendous. Like just that's I'm sure nobody listening to this is surprised by any of these facts though. Like
And then
Brisbane, sure.
the Premier of Queensland, Anastasia Palaszczuk, is on the 2023 FIFA World Cup ambassador or something crap like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit sucky, but you know that's what we deal with in Australia. I don't think we're going to see much of a difference in stadiums in the next 50 years. Like it's just not going to happen.
Mm.
The
I
the
think that. Sorry, what?
Well, just the way that governments have control over everything that gets built, they're not going to agree to little 10,000 seater stadiums. They want big monstrosities that waste
Yeah,
taxpayers' money.
yeah, and it's going to take clubs like Western United to get the funds and build their own stadium,
Yeah.
if that happens. But if you want a 15,000 purpose-built stadium, it's up to the club to do it. And if Melbourne City owners aren't even going to do it, I don't think anyone's going to do it. So,
Yeah.
well, Western United's going to do it, hopefully. So there we go. Anyway, that's the Brisbane move. We haven't got much left on our Zoom meeting because we're tight asses and we don't pay for it. But let's have a quick chat just about Wellington's new coach. A couple of days, I think last week it was announced that Vitale was not going to stay with the Knicks heading into the 23-24 season. But he's been replaced by Giancarlo Italiano.
Yeah, the chief, the assistant coach for a while.
Yeah.
Always been a bit of an interesting figure on the sidelines. Yeah, it's an interesting move. Firstly, dealing with the Tale situation. I think rightly he should be able to pursue other opportunities. He's done a great job with Wellington over the last 4 seasons and really made them a solid club. Making the finals this year, and there's still 2 games to go. They might not, but you would say it looks like they're going to make the finals. Yeah. That's a really good achievement for them. If they get anything out of that, that's great. They're not a huge club with huge resources, and Tale has made them, just an exciting team to watch a lot of the time. So he definitely deserves the opportunity to try something else. Big overseas move. He could be at Victory or Sydney FC next season. That's over the Tasman Sea. That's what they were talking about, right? That's his big overseas move.
Victory. I thought it was Sydney FC, but yeah, overseas probably Australia. Don't think he's going to go anywhere else.
I don't see him getting a European gig.
No.
Yeah, but he's done a good job with Wellington. Now Italiano replacing him is definitely an interesting one. I assume he's got all the badges that meet the requirements to coach. at that level.
He hasn't got a
But
Wikipedia page.
well, he's not an ex-footballer, and that's the cool thing. He kind of calls himself a self-proclaimed nobody.
Ted Lasso or something.
Yeah. So he's really had to work his way up, and he seems to think he's learnt lots from sitting under coaches like Steve Corica and Graham Arnold, and now Uffy. And because he has to actually think about how the game works, he's not a footballer who can just rely on that football knowledge. He's actually got to think it out himself. He reckons he comes with a fresh approach and wants to build on the tactics that Talley has brought to the Wellington Phoenix. So I think it's cool. Other than him, I don't know if there's many other Kiwi coaches being brought up through their systems. So this is a pretty cool opportunity for somebody, a new coach, a new face in the A-League press conferences.
Yep. Yes, no, it'll be interesting to see how it goes with Wellington. I guess we're coming to an end of our chat, but let's just have a quick look ahead to the fixtures this weekend. Friday night will be the game I'll be at, Western Sydney v Wellington at Combank Stadium in Parramatta. Looking at the bookies, I shouldn't look at the bookies, but Wanderers are hot favourites. Don't know about that. I think Wellington will be a good test, but I think Wanderers should win.
It could be interesting because if Wanderers do beat Wellington and Sydney beat Brisbane, it could be heating up for a derby in the final. In the finals,
that would be very spicy because it's never happened before. It's happened in an FFA Cup game, but it's never happened in the A-League. So that'll be very interesting. Speaking of derbies, F3 Derby, 5 p.m. Saturday Arvo up at Newcastle and the Central Coast.
I tell you what, Jets are right on the edge of the 6. And actually, if Wanderers beat Wellington, Jets can't catch them because their goal difference sucks. But look, the Jets are right there. So F3 Derby, Jets love an F3 Derby. I wouldn't back against the Jets in this one.
Speaking of derbies, Western United is hosting Melbourne City at Amy Park on Saturday night. That's your 7:45 kickoff. Western United need to win to keep their finals hopes alive. City, well, doesn't really matter what they do. They could, take it easy. They could blood a few youngsters if they want and do whatever the hell they want because they've got the job done 2 weeks early. So I still think City will probably be too strong. But, Western's still got a lot to fight for, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think City will take the foot off the pedal. I think that's a dangerous thing to do coming into the final. So I think they'll want to just keep things ticking along nicely, and they should win this one.
Yeah. Sunday Arvo, the 3 p.m. kickoff. A lovely time to go watch some football, but I can't imagine there'll be too many people there because their fan base is quite toxic at the moment. Melbourne Victory is hosting Macarthur at Amy Park.
It's a fight for the bottom.
The Spoon Bowl. And
fight for the Australia Cup.
The bookies think Melbourne Victory are damn hot favourites, and I think that's a rort because these two teams are bang average. I think Victory should probably win this one, but if Macarthur wanted to do us all a favour and give Victory the second spoon in 3 seasons, they would be revered across the land.
I'd love to see Macarthur win this one, but look, both teams will just be playing for pride, and that's the most heartbreaking thing you can say to a team at this stage of a league season. You're just playing for pride out there.
Is it? We're talking about Melbourne Victory and a team that nobody wanted. Do we really feel bad for them?
No, but
Anyway, and the 6 p.m. kickoff, 6 p.m. in New South Wales, which means over in Perth, that's like 3 p.m. I think. Perth's hosting Adelaide at HBF Park for just the second time this season they've played there. I actually think Perth, back home, they've played really well when playing at home. Adelaide look a bit off at the moment. A loss for Adelaide really opens up that race for the second spot on the ladder. Geez, what do you reckon, Perth or Adelaide?
Yeah, look, I think Adelaide will just be too good. I think they'll get on top of those hiccups from the last couple of weeks. And Perth aren't great.
Yeah. And on to Monday night at 7 p.m. and must be because the next day is Anzac Day, so it's public holiday. Brisbane back at Lang Park or Suncorp Stadium. They're hosting Sydney FC.
Oof.
Gosh, who knows which Sydney FC is going to turn up?
Yeah, look, often it's at home that Sydney don't turn up. So, yeah, who knows? After a really good 4-1 win, Brisbane will probably win this one. So that's how confident I am this season.
John O'Shea penalty, 5 to go.
Like it's pretty even in the bookies as well. So yeah.
Yeah,
I think it'll be close. Sydney, you would think Sydney should win this, right? The quality they have on the park compared to Brisbane, they should win this. But last time they played Brisbane, they just rescued a point late on in the game. So
yeah,
who knows?
Smells like a 0 or draw to me. Well, that's a wrap. That's all 6 games for the weekend. That's a wrap on our little weekly chat. So thanks for joining us, folks. Let us know in the comments whatever you're feeling, whatever your thoughts are on this video or what you had for breakfast. Leave a like for the video, subscribe if you haven't, and share it on social media. We greatly appreciate it. We're pushing towards 600 subscribers or 700?
700. I think we're over 600.
Jeez. 7, what a number. And thanks to, I think I've got over 500 views for my vlog at the Wanderers the last time I checked. So that's it's really good to see all the love you guys are showing us. But anyway, we'll see you in the next weekly wrap, which we'll try and get out next Thursday.
Yeah, man.